All right, traders, good afternoon. This is Christian from Hart's Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, March 11th, and another big volatile day for the market. We had SPY finish down 4.9% for the day. Q's a little shy of that 4.36%. You had small caps again getting absolute smash, down 6.3%. I'll come back to those small caps in a minute. And then you couldn't hide in bonds either. So there was something a little bit different going on today than what we saw back on Monday, which seems like it was a long time ago. But remember Monday we had a big sell-off in the morning, which continued throughout the day, and and we had some things like bonds, continue to rally and so forth. Today we did not get that, and gold also. You can't hide in gold either. So we'll go through the good and the bad. You could see from sectors, again, a couple really interesting things. Look at the gold miners, right? The gold miners were down. We're down. Whoops, I hit the wrong button there. But crazy, 8.2%. I mean, those again crazy moves. Boeing was a big story today that brought down air defense and aerospace names. They were down 9% for the day. The home builders, what were the home builders down that much on 8.5% ITB? I mean, just again, much larger numbers than anyone is useful or used to, I should say. Best performing group, I guess, was the Chinese internets. They only fell, from where they opened. They still fell from the they still fell from the open. So there was not one group that I don't mean to laugh to make fun, but it's kind of just ridiculous, right? To see this type of a washout. So perhaps I would say to be a little bit positive that when you have days like this, they're usually washout days, and maybe we can get another bounce day for tomorrow. We'll see how that works itself out. Looking at the 5 minute, the price action just in the Qs, I thought that this was also similar to what we saw on Monday. Anytime like, I'm on the 5 minute bar, but a lot of these 5 minute bars here were basically green bars in the first 2 minutes, and then it seems like somebody knows how to play the game. Like, somebody's selling like in the last 2 or 3 minutes before the bar closes to make these bars go red. And again, the first 2 minutes they're complete green. They're trying to rally, and they become failed rallies. But it seems like I hate to use the word manipulated, but it seems like somebody knows what they're doing in terms of making these bars all close red. So again, we saw this if you go back to Monday's price action. All right, this was yesterday, and then the day before that. Right, it just seemed like a lot of bars were kind of doing the same thing. If I can get to, obviously this was the limit down, but I think here's what I was referring to. Just a lot of times where these things were trying to go positive, and not being able to. So where does that leave us? Well, there's some things to kind of take note of, right? If we go to Nasdaq, Nasdaq did not take out Monday's lows, so and it was basically just another inside day, even though down 3.6%. If we look at S&P futures, kind of the same thing. So inside days, remember what inside days are? You could Google what an inside day is, but it basically is like a continuation move. Now, we didn't have a start of a trend or anything like that on Tuesday with that big green bar, but really you can't really make too many conclusions based on that, both in the S&P and the Qs. Now, what's different is if you look at IWM continues to lead this market lower. I sent out a chart this morning. We talked about this pre-market, and it kind of made me a little bit like normally I would come in and I see the market down. I don't know what did we open down, like 2 or 3%. and you would start to say, okay, this is going to be a good day to buy the dip. And just looking at this small caps, one of the comparisons that I made earlier was that when we did this, right? It's important to kind of look at this. What really led us up here were the small caps. And if you don't believe me, if we go to one of these charts, and by the way, this is the relationship right now, IWM versus SPY, and you could see that this has been devastation in the small caps right now. So if you go back and if you look at this and look at the what we did back towards the end of 2018, you could see right around that end of the year, I guess a couple days, everything rallied right after the 24th. The 24th again was the low back here. Right, and then on the 26th, then we started to go up. So I think for a couple days, everything went up. And then what really led the market here were the small caps. Those started to really rally towards the end of the year and then on for 2 months. So that's kind of why I'm looking for these things to stop leading down. I was actually looking at some things because there was a few names that held up pretty well today, and I'll look at a couple of those charts. Not again, very few and far between, but there was things like AMD, Apple. I thought held up pretty well. There's a couple other names too, but um, so I was going to say, hey, this is kind of enough is enough. My instincts told me like, okay, baby, this. I mean, we've gotten to the point where the bad news is pretty much all on one side of the boat again. But I didn't do anything because I do want to see, again, I keep coming back to confirmation, and I think waiting a little bit and trying to wait this out and sit on my hands and try to be flexible and play some things to the short side, which I did a couple small trades to the short side today. And just kind of letting this play out as much as possible rather than not get sucked in. Like, for the majority, we're seeing a lot of put buying, but we are seeing some call buying, a little bit of call buying too. And that's where I've made the mistake before. Is I see a big order on the tape, and sometimes the call buyers are early. Sometimes they time it right too. I'll give them some credit, but sometimes they're early, and I just don't want to get anchored to any belief. That's where I've lost money before. Is where I've said, hey, well, there's a big call buyer on the tape. They must know something, and they end up not knowing anything. So I don't want to get myself into one of those types of traps where I get in, I follow some option activity, and I stay in it because and I ignore my trading rules. So for now, continue to be mostly day trading. But again, we'll have to see if this IWM stops going down like this and even starts to lead, because again, if you look at this relation, I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't know if I've ever seen some of the things that I'm seeing in the last couple days before, in terms of that, and that's what I'm waiting for, because again, I do think that the small caps lead a little bit. So I noticed a lot of people like bickering on Twitter, so that could also be something to the point where the sentiment. I posted a couple things in like option flow, and somebody like jumped down my throat. I'm like, hey, I do that just to kind of help, to kind of show like what's on the tape. But maybe that's also, causing some types of things, some type of sentiment at this point. But yeah, look at TLT, kind of it filled this gap over here. And again, I think that's pretty, even, this happened on what, Monday, where it did one of these all the way to the highs and then sold off. But I think that was mainly in the morning. But yeah, really interesting price action. So we've also gotten to the point, obviously, with the coronavirus. There are some big headlines, that hit on the market. Not only are the cases increasing, but we're seeing some of the health experts say different things. They actually officially called it an epidemic today. Why they didn't do this, a couple weeks ago, I don't know, and we don't have the answers to that, so I'm not even going to go there. There now also, Fossey came out and said that this is 10 times more dangerous than the flu, which uh, we hadn't heard anything like that. He was saying some different statements, more optimistic statements about a week ago. So, you know, I don't know if they've got more information about it, or what the story is, but I don't know. It just seems odd to me that they're coming out with this now, and it feels like they have not been prepared. So anyway, that's that. I'm not going to go any further into that because that's out of our control. So I do think this is telling you something. Obviously, cash. We talked about this shy ETF has been, saw a lot of inflows the last couple of weeks. I think this shy ETF posted. See if I still have this up. Increased its fund size by 12% this week. Oh, sorry, I have the S&P in here. Let me take that out. That's why that looks funny. But yeah, this is the shy 1 to 3 year Treasury bonds. This is where the money's been going. Not all the money. Like there was overall equity inflows yesterday of about $4 billion, but there's also funds like this. So you can see these are the inflows on the bottom of the screen. And if you want to look at this in terms of a 5-year chart, you could see definitely biggest volume that this thing has seen in 5 years. The other one that I seeing volume is this BIL. This is T-bills. Look at the volume in that and the inflows. So there is some money that is coming out of equities and going into cash at this point. So it's a process, right? I mean, we heard a couple months ago, which was a pretty good signal, that in the Bank of America fund manager survey, that cash levels were at an all-time low. Well, now some money is being put over to the sidelines. So again, it's a process. We'll look for things to kind of confirm one another. Until then, I continue to do more day trading than anything else. I had a couple trades worked for me, a couple trades did not work for me. So today, the main thing to take away from that is every trade that I'm putting on, I'm defining where my stop price is. So again, it's a downer when you get stopped out in a trade, but these continue to be like scuffs for me, or paper cuts, when that happens. So it ends up not being really a big deal for me. And if I were doing that in options, it would be much more painful. But right now, I'm just basically trading stock. I even traded some Apple stock at the end of the day and managed to scalp for a couple dollars. And like some of those things are good just mentally to do. It just kind of keeps you fresh, even if you're not making like a huge amount of money by scalping, Apple or the Qs for a few dollars, it still has you like, fresh in terms of like, I had one trade that I put on this morning in Eli Lilly that I had hit my stop price. And, it's good to have a couple wins in there too, so that, it makes it just kind of fine tunes your trading so that, when you do see the right signals and so forth, you can capitalize it on, a little bit better. So this way you're not rusty. So I continue to be active and looking for opportunities, but really just it's all on the day trading front right now. All right, guys, that's it for today. Hang in there again. Realize that this is a process. I think one of the things that I saw going around that there was less new lows today. So again, you just have to, even though some names like Boeing got absolutely shelled today, like this AMD, like what's going on with this stock? It seems to be hanging in there. Also, just to give you kind of a few names that I'm watching for the day, or was watching for the day, Tesla. This doesn't have to go forward to trigger a buy signal. I'm also watching Amazon too. Amazon, down big, but didn't lose value, so may set up for some type of a trade for tomorrow. All right, guys. Again, look at the market breadth. Really, really negative for the day. So that's it for today. Have a great night, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.